12. Let's go. Oh, baby. Welcome to Saving Thursday for Bet Victor. Ryan Pinder and producer Jack in Calgary. Tyson Cole out on the left coast. What do they call it? A cyclone bomb? Are you have power poles flying over? Tidal waves? Everything okay over there?
Yeah, we're fine. Nothing really hit us. We're lucky because we got Vancouver Island right there. Victoria kind of takes the big brunt of it, and we're sitting pretty over here.
So would have been some scenes in Tofino, I'm guessing, but you're good. You still
Yeah, I'm good. That would have been some incredible surfing. Maybe
8 wetsuits, 100-foot wave. We got a gem tonight. It is an AFC North game, and it is an AFC winter game as the Steelers enter Cleveland. 2 tough towns, 2 blue-collar cities, 2 tough defenses, I think, and some really, really AFC North weather in Cleveland tonight. It's the 8-2 Steelers, the 2-8 Browns. We will get into the matchups, the numbers, the bets, and all that in a moment, including walking through the respective schedules. They both had very public and dramatic quarterback changes. They both, I think, have surprised people versus preseason expectations, except for producer Jack, whose Steelers are 8-2, as he knew they would be. His confidence surging at all-time highs. But first, let's get to some NFL news. Jack, we will get to you. This is your team. These are your boys. I know you're excited. Why don't we start, though, with the news of the week. Daniel Jones, hope you enjoyed wearing a Giants uniform. Don't think you're going to be doing that again. We talked about it last week. Now it's happened, Tyson. He's a guy at practice. Nobody that's being considered to throw the football again with that organization. We talked about why last week with the injury bonus, but just it's coming to fruition.
I mean, it's about time. We've all kind of seen this coming right from when he was drafted. I saw today that he was actually playing safety in practice. I don't know if you saw that, but
Jack was mentioning. Yeah, Jack, what was scout team? What are we?
Yeah, so in the install period for the offense, the offense is in a group by themselves. They send the backups out there to go stand and play defense, and he was playing safety.
Pathetic.
I mean, could he be no, he couldn't. Okay, that's really no. It's cooked.
Yeah. But hey, you gotta give it to him and his agent. I mean, he was able to turn this short NFL career into $100 million already. So
well, and hang on, because here's what I said to Jack at lunch. Well, let's just hear from Danny first. Daniel Jones spoke with the media. This is after what we just talked about. He had a prepared speech, which I think is helpful. You don't want to ramble and say something you don't mean. He's essentially single-digit days of auditioning for his next job, whether that's TV or still playing football or even playing quarterback in the NFL. Maybe it's playing safety, Tyson, but he came prepared, and the more I listened, the more I felt for the guy.
All right, wrote something down just to make sure I say it the right way. Let's see. The opportunity to play for the New York Giants was truly a dream come true, and I'm extremely grateful to the Mara and Tisch families for the chance to play here. The Giants are truly a first-class organization, and I have nothing but genuine respect and appreciation for the people who have built it and who helped carry on that tradition. I've met so many special people and created relationships that will truly last a lifetime. Thank you to all my teammates, coaches, and staff that have done so much for me these past 6 years. There have been some great times, but of course, we all wish there had been more of those. I take full responsibility for my part in not bringing more wins. No one wanted to win more games worse than me, and I gave everything I had on the field and in my preparation. Of course, this season has been disappointing for all, and of course, I wish I could have done more. I'm 100% accountable for my part. I did not play well enough consistently enough to help the team get the results. The reality of the NFL is it's hard to win games and requires consistent performance from everyone involved. We didn't do that well enough, so the idea to change something happens, and I understand. I love the game. I love being part of a team. I'm excited for the next opportunity and know that there's a lot of good football in front of me, and I'm excited about that. To all the fans, I have deep respect and appreciation for your passion and love for the Giants. The fans are a huge part of what makes playing for the Giants so special.
Okay, so Danny takes the high road, and smart thing to do. If you're his agent, if you're his publicist, if you're him himself, I mean, look, it didn't go well. Don't try to tell people it did. And also own your part of it and don't blame other people. I think that's a really tactically sound and heartfelt comment. And I also think Tyson, because it didn't work with the Giants, does not mean it won't work elsewhere. I'm not here to say he's a great player, but what I am saying is how's their decision-making been? How's the O-line been? How smart were they with how they treated Saquon? Is this a well-run organization that got let down by their quarterback? No.
Yeah. No, I don't believe that. And I mean, they made so many questionable decisions throughout the whole way. And I mean, you can even chalk it up to just this past offseason with Saquon. Shouldn't have let him go. That's so much evident just by on the field today. But yeah, you're right. Like, I don't think Daniel Jones, like, he's not a great starting quarterback, but he'd be a good backup anywhere else, So I don't think this is the end of Daniel Jones. I think, we'll see him on another team by next season. So it's not the end of him, I don't think.
Well, and here's the thing. There have been guys in their first stops that when they left, we thought, hey, he could probably go hold a clipboard somewhere and be fine. Mm-hmm. And they turn out to be good starting quarterbacks. I mean, Justin Fields was had for almost nothing this past offseason. Mm-hmm. Geno Smith is in his third year of being a starter in the NFL. He was quit on by the other New York team. Sam Darnold, resurgent this year for the Minnesota Vikings, is a guy that was an afterthought, only thrust into that opportunity because of injury. And Baker Mayfield's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year. These are guys that needed to get somewhere else. And if we don't think Daniel Jones knows more now than he did when he showed up, it's crazy. Sure. This is a business decision being made by the Giants. And Jones knows that. They can't risk having him on payroll. They're going to be bad enough. They're going to be in a spot to draft another quarterback, one they don't have to pay for a few years. And it's time for new mates. The Giants need a new quarterback, and Daniel Jones needs an opportunity with a different organization. The odds are he'll be moving to a more functional organization.
Well, I heard rumors about the Panthers, and in that case, probably not. But but I agree. Like, sometimes you just need a fresh start as a quarterback, like Baker Mayfield and all those guys that you listed, and they turned out to be successful and everything. So do I think that happens to Daniel Jones? I mean, not with what we've seen lately, but,
it's possible.
We didn't think that would happen with anybody else that you listed. So, I mean, can't call it out.
Yeah. And so I just find it interesting because, the team's dragging them. And like, well, they kind of are when you're putting them on scout team safety, but they also just have to play their cards right. You can't be on the hook for $23 million here. Like, if he gets hurt somehow, so you're not going to start him again. That's just good business practice. And it sounds like, by the way he's talking, at least his side is playing nice. You'd hope the Giants will play nice. And yeah, for them, if Daniel Dimes, if he plays off his ass down the stretch and gets some 2-3 more wins, that's not good for them. They need to bottom out. And so we're getting the band back together. They got Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock holding it down. I think Jack's their third stringer. Like, Danny's not even the emergency quarterback anymore. Is he, Jack? Are you the third stringer this weekend?
I might as well be.
What did you think about that decision to go to Tommy DeVito over Drew Lock?
Drew Lock's been less about DeVito. So, I mean, what is Drew Lock? I think, we've seen him in Denver, Seattle, and now here. Like, it's not like, who knows? It might be something. He's like, I think we kind of know what it is. Mm-hmm. Whereas DeVito, there is that intrigue. It's probably nothing, but you may as well see. And again, if the downside is losing all your games down the stretch, that's a good thing for the Giants. I feel like, why not turn over the stone and see what's there? And if it's probably nothing, who cares? You lost games and increased your draft stock anyway.
That's kind of what I think this is. Like, because if Drew Lock served as your 2 when you were trying to win games, why wouldn't you throw him in?
Yeah.
When you bench the starter.
We've also seen Jameis Winston listed as a 3, Russell Wilson listed as a 3. Teams, I don't know why, but they don't mind giving their actual real backups that number 3 emergency guy sometimes. So, and again, that's a new wrinkle the last year or two they've added in terms of not having to have your third string quarterback on the roster. It's like an emergency roster spot. So there might be something there too that, they've gone to DeVito before. I guess Locke's the newish toy. But yeah, like Thompson Robinson was listed ahead of Jameis, and it was obvious Jameis was going to start the moment Deshaun was gone.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think they're tanking, and this is a tanking move because, like, the exciting player is Drew Lock, because he's kind of like Jameis. He'll air it out. He's not scared to throw the deep ball. I don't really know if Tommy DeVito's given that same energy,
Sure. Yeah, no, and look, to be fair, tanking's good business at this point.
Yep.
Like if they somehow fall into 3 wins here, that's a disaster. You know what I mean? It's almost like if DeVito plays well, it's like, shit, get that other guy in here. Where's Drew Lock? Where's your helmet? Get in here.
Where's Daniel Jones? We weren't winning with him. Get him back.
Daddy, get your back, baby. Just promise here's your bubble wrap. Now out you go. Like, can't get hurt.
Hand the ball off. Don't throw it ever. Don't get sacked.
Yeah. Great news for the Tampa Bay Bucks. We have seen them a bit. I think they've had a couple Thursdays or primetime slots at least. I know we've talked about them at significant length. We hit a Baker over rushing yards earlier this year. I do remember that.
Yeah.
And they're a good team, but they just got absolutely decimated in the wide receiver room. Mike Evans was hurt, and then you lost Chris Godwin for the year. And we've kind of seen the emergence of Cade Otton as a result. But this is a team that's kind of hung around. They're 4-6, which isn't great, but they're only a game and a half back of the Atlanta Falcons. So they get Mike Evans back this week. They are not dead. They're not a good team, but they might be good enough to win that NFC South, because Atlanta I don't know what the hell they're doing. It's New Orleans and Denver back-to-back they've lost?
Killed by Denver too.
Like, we liked Atlanta midway through, but we had them on a Thursday. I was on a beach in Australia watching them not hand off the ball to Bijan Robinson in the fourth quarter. But we thought this team was good. It's 2 really bad losses for Atlanta. This is huge news for the Bucs.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't believe that they'd still be in it at this point. Like when Godwin and Evans were out, like I was like, okay, the Bucs are done. But the way Baker's playing, even without them, like he's relying so much more on his legs, and Cade Otton, the emergence of him, like their defense is all right, hasn't been good lately, but they could make a push here. Like Atlanta they had the keys to the NFC South division, and
even one of those 2 games, if they win, that's a 2.5 game bulge. And you lose both.
Much.
Like here, now, this is why we thought Tampa was dead. Atlanta had 2 soft touches. You thought. Now Denver's better than we thought, but New Orleans hadn't won since week 2. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, that's embarrassing. And then they fired the coach, and you still lose to him, especially a division rival. I just want to look here. Did Atlanta sweep the season series against the Bucs? Because I know they won that Thursday nighter that we covered.
So here it is. Okay, so we started the season. They played the Falcons and lost 36-30 on that Thursday nighter. That was the last minute win from the Bucs. They will play again.
No, they already played.
They have played both. Yeah, they lost again. They lost both. So you're basically 2 games back.
Yeah, they lost.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's still an uphill battle. But, I mean, if you got Mike Evans coming back, who only needs like 600 yards for 11 consecutive seasons of 1,000 receiving yards, which that's a crazy record. But I don't know. You can't call him dead. You can't call him dead.
No, you can't. And here's the thing. If Atlanta's going to lose to the New Orleans, who can you say they're guaranteed to win against left on their schedule?
Bucks next 3 games: Giants, Panthers, Raiders.
Giants, Panthers, Raiders. That's 3 wins. I think they can make it. While you have it, can you find Atlanta's? Because again, they looked like they should have had 2 wins. I'm not giving Denver enough credit, and I think that victory over Atlanta even builds that sort of credibility of the Broncos. But you should have won at least one of those. You have to beat New Orleans at this stage.
They've got the Chargers, Vikings, Raiders, Giants.
So you could lose 2 of the 3.
And Panthers week 18.
Who knows? Panthers. That's a team that's got. Jonathan Brooks will return this week. He is going to play. We've been talking about it for 3 weeks. It's finally happening.
Finally.
Guess who's got him on their bench waiting? And watch him get like 5 carries behind Hubbard. That's good news for Tampa. What do you make of the other mess in New York? Because Aaron Rodgers has talked about, I want to play again. And now we're hearing rumblings that the owner at like week 4 was like, yo, I don't think Aaron's got this. And then you see a coaching change, and then you see the offensive coordinator turn into the coffee guy who's double, who's got the light foam latte. Okay, you're married. Milk and the fake sugar. Got it. Like that's Nathaniel Hackett went from calling plays to knowing the guy working the drive-through window at the coffee shop. Like this thing has been so dysfunctional, and it's like, oh, bring all Aaron's pals back. Here's Lazard and here's Devontae Adams, but they've had one good game. Like it's all the shit show. Like they've been embarrassed a lot, and now it's like, if Aaron Rodgers wants to come back, that's great. Not here.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it's feeling like to me.
Well, they fired their GM, Joe Douglas, I believe it.
Yeah, that's right.
They just fired him, and then now it's coming out that ownership is like, we don't want him back. Like it clearly didn't work out. So why are you going to rerun it back when he's looked this poor? But you've been helping him. You've done everything he's ever asked.
Yeah.
So
now, I believe there's nothing guaranteed on Devontae Adams' contract beyond this year. So that's, I don't mind them pushing chips this year around, Aaron, but moving forward, it's got to be like, okay, we tried to reunite the 2020 Packers, 2018 Packers. We're not doing that again.
Can't do it. What do you do now if you're the Jets? Do you start tanking for a better pick? Because it's not clearly working out with Russell Wilson, with Aaron Rodgers. So don't you want to push all your chips in for next year? Like, what are we doing here?
Well, and I think, look, like you're hearing a lot of conflicting stuff about quarterback class out of college and all that. But if you're moving on from Rodgers and you've just moved on from Zach Wilson, you got to find a quarterback, right? Like so I kind of, what we said about the Giants, I don't know that it's that different with when we're talking about the Jets. Like, I'm looking right here. The Jets have 3 wins. That's only that like you're within 1 win of it all. That it's really that simple. Where's the NFC? I can't click on the NFC. There's the NFC. Sorry. So 2 win clubs. Giants are 1. That's the only team in the NFC. And there's 2 in the AFC, Jacksonville and Vegas, and Tennessee and Cleveland. Sorry, there's 4 in the AFC. So there's 5 teams at 2 wins. The Jets have 3. Could you find a way to lose coming home? They've found ways on their own already all year. So maybe they're just saying, look, it's over here. It's time to find a young quarterback to build around. And if the draft chips don't fall the right way, we'll go plug a hole the way Pittsburgh did this offseason and just go find some vets for a year and reload it again the next draft class.
I think that's probably what you have to do. But if they continue just trying like they have been all year, they'll lose more games than they'll win anyway. So
yeah, that's fair. So that's that. Okay, that's kind of it for me on the news. I do have a game this weekend I want to talk about. We could touch that later on Saving Sunday, but it is Saving Thursday. So let's get deeper in on the 8-2 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 2-8 Cleveland Browns. Let's take a look at the betting line, sure. We weren't going to make any picks right now, but here's what we're looking at. The over-under total is incredibly low, 36.5. A lot of that is weather reasons. These are not dynamic offenses, although they do have some big play potential, especially with Pickens when Wilson's been under center. And since Jameis has come in, he just loves airing it out. When in doubt, just zip 160 yards down the field. You can see the Browns at home are dogs. It's 3.5 points. I think it's a much bigger number if we don't have this nasty weather. The AFC North weather, I think, is going to be a big thing. And why don't we look at the weather forecast, Jack? Because, we've had some games where we thought weather was going to be an issue at 4 or 5 days out, and then it just turns out to be, wasn't a big deal. Mm-hmm. This was updated an hour ago or so. Look at 1:45 Eastern. Rain and snow showers. Cloudy. Lows around 35. Our Canadian friends, as we're here on Canada Sports Betting YouTube channel, that's basically 1 degree, 2 degrees. Like, we are talking right around freezing. Also, half to 3/4 of an inch possible of rain. Like, that's a lot of precipitation. And on top of that, you got wind that can be gusting north of 20 miles per hour, that's speeding in a playground zone in Canada. Like, that's a significant bit of wind out there. It's interesting because when you think of the AFC North, you think of this like run the ball, bad weather, play defense. That's tonight. I mean, maybe there's other things that do happen, but this if I said close your eyes and think of like a late season game between AFC North opponents, this is the weather. For sure. And we've seen how these games go before, right? Like it's Tomlin football, Browns football, like probably going to be they're used to this weather though, they're used to this weather, but they're used to like running the ball and all that. I mean, we'll see how much this weather does come into effect, but I mean, it's looking kind of bad, and it's not fun. And that kind of reflects on the over under, which is the lowest over under on the entire week. So Jack, this is some primo sports couch stuff. When it's I think we got what, like 3-4 inches of snow overnight here in Calgary.
Yeah.
It is winter now. We fought it off for a while. I know you're in Vancouver. It just sort of pisses for 8 months there, but this is like turn on the fireplace, and I'm A-okay just watching sports and having soups and stews and hearty food. Like it is. This is some straight winter football. I'm great with it. Like if this is ugly, low scoring, and run the ball, I'm absolutely fine with it. Jack, you got to be jacked up here. Your boys are in one.
Oh, yeah, I'm jacked up. This is going to be an ugly football game. If you want to tune in to see some high-powered offenses, this is not the game for you. But weather aside, I think this game plays out the same way. Like, this is just classic AFC North football. I went back and looked at last year. They played a year ago. It was November 19th. The Browns won 13-10 at home. Better weather. It's just the way both these teams want to play, and they want to play each other. They're going to grind it out. They're going to run the football. They're going to kick field goals. And you saw it last week. The Steelers had their first division game. The Ravens, Steelers, it was more of a defensive battle. The Steelers scored 0 touchdowns and won the game.
They've done that a few times
against the best offense in the NFL. This is the way they want to play. And I know Cleveland on the other side, they're going to want to run the football, especially in this weather. I know they got Jameis, but I really just think both teams are going to try and grind this one out. And it's going to be a boring football game, but I think there's going to be some weird turnovers. There's always seems to be something that happens in these Browns and Steelers games. Last year, was it Nick Chubb early in the season? That hit from Minka. That was a crazy game as well. So
they've won ugly. I'll give Pittsburgh credit. Week 1, 18-10 over Atlanta. I don't think they scored a touchdown in that game either. Week 2 at Denver, 13-6. Week 11, that's last week we just talked about, Baltimore, 18-16. Like Pittsburgh has done what Cleveland's not been able to, and that's to win some of these close, low-scoring affairs. I like a lot about this Browns defense, but Deshaun Watson never gave him a chance. They were on the field the whole time until he exited. It was week 8 that Jameis Winston took over after the injury to Deshaun Watson, and they've shown a little more pop offensively, but it certainly isn't more trustworthy because, Winston's not afraid of turnovers. It does feel like that AFC North game. Like if I told you close your eyes and think about a game at Lambeau Field for the Packers, you think of a thing. And when I say it's winter now, it's not fall in terms of the weather. What does the AFC North look like? I'm thinking of like muddy fields, wet, gross. When you're off, you got one of those massive XXL parkas on the sidelines, and the fans are animals. Like that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, but like you said, I'm excited for it. Now,
I'm good with it. Yeah.
Might not be fun to bet on, but we've got some edges that we'll get to later. But yeah, it's not going to be, Chiefs Ravens like we saw, Bucks Falcons like we saw, Ravens Bengals. It'll be a completely different game. But
this will not be Ravens Bengals, by the way. No. That was insane. Oh yeah, they have 400 yards here, 260 there, 3 touchdowns for this guy, a couple for that guy.
I'm pretty sure the Ravens scored more points. Would have hit this over just by themselves.
On their own, for sure. Yeah. Was absolutely insane. So let's talk a bit about how these offenses work, and then we'll get into the data, Tyson, and then make our prop picks of the week. Jack, your team made a quarterback change, and it was surprising at the time because I think the Steelers were 5-2 when they switched to Justin Fields, from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson. Now, Russ was a little nicked up in camp. We sort of thought it might be an excuse because they wanted to look at Fields and like not tell you, you're 95%. We'll get you 100, Russ. Then we'll ride. Let's ride. Blah, blah, blah. But that was a controversial move at the time. Week 7, we talked a lot about it. Mike Tomlin is smarter than us, but this one seems like a non-Tomlin-y move, and he seemed to actually, in hindsight, he was right. We were wrong.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I did not want to see Russell Wilson. I remember it was coming off of that Raiders win, and they put up like 31 points. I think it was actually
32-13.
32-13
in Vegas.
That's week 6, right? They go 4-2 after that.
That's right, 4-2. Sorry.
And then they make the switch, and you're like, what are we doing here? Because Fields is the younger quarterback. He's
4-2.
Yeah, you're 4-2, and he's playing good football. He's not hitting all the passes, but he's using his legs, and that's something Wilson can't do at this stage in his career
as much,
if at all. And I was definitely against it, but I think Tomlin made the move to see, okay, I know how good I am with Justin Fields. Can we be better? And I think so far the answer is yes.
So since then, After the win in Vegas, they moved to 4-2. It's been the Russell Wilson show. Week 1 was that game against the Rodgers, Devontae Adams. It was a big one, right? Prime time and the debuts. Then it was, they win that 37-15. They absolutely rout the Jets. They clobber the Giants. They eke one out against the Commanders. The last play of the game, they get them for a neutral zone infraction, like a very close game that could have gone either way. Ditto that last week on the 18-16 win over Baltimore. Again, a play away from being a different outcome. They're 4-0 under Russ. Do we like this team more under Russell Wilson, Tyson?
I think so. And I mean, that's coming from a bitter Broncos fan who had to suffer through him for the last 2 seasons. But I mean, they're undefeated. Like, you can't, sure, they're not convincing wins, but they're wins. It's Steeler football. Like, it's gutty, it's close, but it's entertaining. Yeah. And I mean, I think so. Like, they add an element with Russell Wilson that they couldn't add with Justin Fields, and that's like the deep ball. Now George Pickens he's a little bit of a diva, so now he's happy. Now he's getting involved. Sorry, Jack. But now, like, the passing game, like that's just a whole nother weapon that wasn't really utilized before with Justin Fields. Or, sorry, I shouldn't say not at all, like, not to the level that it is now. And being able to stretch the field with the deep balls, and that opens up a lot of the running game too. Like, Najee Harris has been really good lately. Jalen Warren's fully healthy now. So I think overall this team is better under Russ.
And Jack, I put words in your mouth, but we talk every day. You're happier with Wilson than you thought you would have been, and you'd pick Wilson to start a playoff game today over Fields?
100%. I want to see more Fields. So where we're struggling is inside the 20.
So this is great. And hold that thought. I'm coming right back to you. Justin Fields came in for some red zone work last week under Russell Wilson. And so while this is a better team overall with Russell Wilson, they've been much less efficient in the red zone than they were under Justin Fields. Tonight, you can't find lines anywhere. I would love to be all over a pass attempt, rushing yards, something with Fields getting involved, because I'm kind of with Jack. The spidey sense is going off. We're going to see Fields incorporated into this offense. Tomlin only showed us a little bit of that the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's slowly getting him back involved again. And you saw at the end of the game, like the game's like, hey,
clinching drive.
Justin Fields, go close this game for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
bad slide, but he basically did.
Bad slide, but it was the right play.
Yeah,
it was the right call. So we were looking for props. We can't find anything, but if you can find a rushing yards or even an anytime touchdown, I'd be all over it for Fields.
That's what I'm looking for right now. Just because
and Bet Victor and some other books that we like, I can't find anything Justin Fields anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's because the books are like, we don't want it out there, because they're thinking what we're thinking, which is this might be a significant role for Fields in this offense. And Jack, you were saying there's some speculation out there. He might even line up at wide receiver at times.
Yeah, there are some beat reporters out of Pittsburgh saying you could see him at wide receiver doing some stuff, maybe some Taysom Hill sort of stuff. I don't know.
Like, if I'm Bet Victor, I'm just like, I'm keeping this guy off the book until I know what the hell Tomlin's on.
How do you put odds on it, right?
Because he might get 0 snaps, and he might get 5 carries for 80 yards. Like, it's, I'm fascinated by how they use these two quarterbacks.
That would be so fun. You never see like a quarterback by committee. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, you see that with running backs, but like, you wouldn't have Fields in there to throw. Now, you're going to be pretty predictable if Fields is in there, like, exactly what you're going to do. But I love that. Like, he's so good on the ground. Yeah.
Think about last week. Who had like the biggest week in fantasy that was nobody?
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill.
Mm-hmm.
He threw the ball like 6 times, ran for 180 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Caught passes.
Like, when Taysom Hill comes in the game, the defense isn't like, who's this? What the heck is going on? Like, they know he's there to use his legs. It still works. And so if Mike Tomlin can find that gadget here with Fields, I'm fascinated. It makes them, because when I look at Pittsburgh, and I've been a bit of a hater of what they've done this year, the easy schedule is not their fault, but their 2 best wins of the year, their last 2 weeks, and they're both, a play away from not being wins, but they got them out. But I don't have any doubt in the coach. I don't have any doubt in the defense. I like their special teams in terms of the kickers are all solid. I just wonder about, in a playoff game, can you create enough offense? If you turn Fields into a gadget thing, like, that helps.
That
wouldn't be over.
That could be just what they need,
Yeah.
Like, who's to say Fields can't be used as Taysom Hill, like we just talked about?
Right.
He's got the running upside. Now, can he catch? That's the thing. I mean, maybe we get to see it tonight, but I mean, yeah, that would add such a different element to this offense that kind of lacks pop outside
dynamic,
of
right?
Pickens. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and Pickens has come to life under Wilson for sure. Walk us through the running backs, Jack, because Jalen Warren's been sort of battling some nagging injuries, but sounds like he's close to 100. He's always posted better yards per carry than Najee, but usually it's in a limited role. It's like the change of pace is where he thrives. If you made him the one, apparently now all of a sudden the efficiency goes down. It's a weird sort of conundrum with Warren.
He's getting the ball in completely different situations when he's running it, right?
Third downs,
draws. His yards per carry is definitely a lot better than Najee's. Najee's been good this year, though. I know a lot of people hate Najee Harris.
Back to the rookie year, right?
Yeah.
There was just so much hype, and he flopped so hard.
And he hasn't been good. His yards per carry hasn't been good, but I've seen a lot of what I've liked to see from like Najee this year. Back to the Bama days. Just take the ball, quit dancing, hit the hole hard, and go. And he's got that power. And the offensive line is finally clicking. It's a young group, but they've looked really, really good. Rookie center, rookie right guard, young right tackle. They're all gelling, and I like this run game a lot compared to previous years. So yeah, Najee leading the way. Warren kind of change of pace, and then you'll see Cordell Patterson come in a little bit as well. They'll put him out wide. They'll put him at running back. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a couple touches in this game either.
Feels like good run the ball weather. We'll get to our picks in a moment. We do have some running the ball bets and props to target. On the other side of the ball, Deshaun Watson sewered this team's chances with some of the worst quarterback play we've seen in a half century against a really soft part of their schedule, defending the pass. We talked about it. It was incredibly awful given the context of the stats, not just that the stats were bad. Jameis Winston gives them a little more big play, but he's still super high risk reward. He's been in since week 8. That was the win over Baltimore. They then lose to the Chargers pretty badly, and they get pumped by the Saints. I mean, that's not a good look at this time of the year. So what do we make of Cleveland in this offense? They move out Amari Cooper. Tyson Tillman's kind of got a little more space to operate, but he's still a relative unknown in his career compared to what Amari Cooper was. And they do have Nick Chubb back now, but it's not Pro Bowl Nick Chubb.
Do they? Might physically be there, but
like it's him. It's not someone with his jacket on or jersey. Like it's him. It's not Pro Bowl Nick Chubb.
No, it's not. And I mean, that was a devastating knee injury. Like it was on prime time too, right?
It was ugly.
It was either on a Thursday or a Monday, I believe. But now he gets his redemption because it was against the Steelers too. Regardless, it was ugly, and you got to give him a little bit more leeway than.
Is that the Minka hit you were talking about?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier.
Thank you. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was the hit or not. I didn't remember who delivered it, but it was as ugly as a knee don't bend that way, and a guy's not supposed to be able to come back from that. Incredible that he has, but he was already longer in the tooth, and you're not getting back prime LaDainian Tomlinson here.
Yeah, and. That's not his first knee injury that he's had. He had a bunch in college and then it's the same knee. So like how many surgeries can you have before, it starts to break down and it kind of is starting to look like that because he hasn't been the same. I believe he's only passed 50 yards once so far in his few games and his volume's kind of been there. He averages 13.3 rush attempts per game. So he's just kind of not really a focus in this offense, to me at least. That's not their bread and butter. Where it is through the air because Jameis has not been afraid to throw the ball since he's come back and took over the role from Deshaun Watson. But the wide receivers have really been benefiting from that. Like since, and this is all kind of fantasy, but since Winston took over, Cedric Thomas is a wide receiver 9, Jerry Jeudy's the wide receiver 16. So yeah. So like they're doing a lot better and under the Brown or under Winston.
No question. Let's get to some of the injuries. Jack, walk us through what you've seen. It does appear to be a pretty healthy matchup, and that's 2 in a row, I think, on Thursdays where we really didn't have a lot of injury news.
Yeah, another very healthy week for both of these teams. Pittsburgh without Alex Highsmith, their Pro Bowl outside linebacker for the second straight week. We'll note, though, Nick Herbig, who they drafted last year, came in last year a bit when Highsmith was out, and this year he's been very good. He stripped Derrick Henry like the first play of the game last week.
Set the tone.
He's been very efficient. Good job filling in, obviously opposite of TJ Watt. So that helps. And then Jarek Willis Jr., left tackle on the Browns. He is out with an injury as well.
Okay.
So that's it.
Tyson, let's quickly get to the data and then your picks. Let's flash up what we learned. This again is how a defense plays against another team's offense. Green means I like betting the prop of the player playing that D. Red means let's stay away from that. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, there's some green, there's some red. We've been treated to some green lately, and we had a couple bad weeks where it was all red. But I mean, we get a little bit of both here. We got some good angles on both sides. Due to game script, Steelers are usually winning, so they allow quite a bit of pass attempts against as the team tries to come back against them. But other than that, they're fairly good against quarterbacks. They rank 12th, kind of in the middle of the pack there. But what happens when you allow a lot of pass attempts? You'll throw it a lot underneath to your running back, and that reflects in how many yards they allow to the running back, right? So there are some good angles here. What I did want to point out, which is kind of crazy, and I wish the weather was a little bit better here, but if you look at the Cleveland Browns receiving yards against, the 8th most, 156.4. But look at their receptions allowed to wide receivers. Only 10, which is the 4th fewest. So that just shows me that, they allow a lot deep. A lot of the deep ball. Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of
that is really interesting.
Yeah, right? Like, that's something I wanted to target. But with this weather, am I really going to trust that?
So in theory, you could chase a big play Pickens or longest reception, something like that. But now all of a sudden you're like,
especially with the Browns, like they run the 4th most zone. Pickens is so good against zone.
Okay.
Man. This is all man. Pickens is so good against man. That's why, I loved it. I loved it so much. But with the weather, they might not be needing to, air the ball out.
I still think he gets 1 or 2 opportunities deep,
especially with Russell
or something. Yeah,
they're going to have a 3rd and long at some point, and you're like, why not? Let's just zip one out there.
I think it's more like a 2nd and short, and you run a play action.
Sure. I just mean, there's no way you aren't trying him a couple times deep in this game.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so that scared you off the weather, and I get it. Like, a lot of the green here doesn't match what you'd want to do in this weather. They're still going to try some stuff. Yeah. But if the wind's at 20 miles an hour, you're less keen to throw out 30 yards in the air. Like, that's obvious. Also, if you're into making bets on kickers, careful here. This is a notoriously tough place to kick field goals. Never mind when it's 20 miles an hour. Yeah. It's right off the lake. You can get some massive precipitation here in Cleveland. But let's get to a running back bet you like, and it's on the Pittsburgh side of the offense.
Najee Harris over 17.5 rush attempts. Now, we're just playing the game script here, right? Like, we're thinking the Steelers are probably going to be, leading a little bit as 3.5 point favorites. So, what does that lead to? A lot of rushing attempts from their number one guy, Najee Harris. It's a high number for sure. Don't get me wrong, but in his last 4 games, he's hit it in every game, and I believe last game he hit 18 on the nose, but he left early, right? Or he didn't leave early.
Cleared just 4 in a row.
Yeah,
and it's running weather.
Yeah, exactly. So there's not much to really overthink there, right?
I like it. My only question is if Warren's now 100 and wasn't before, what happens to the workload? But again, it's more than a tiebreak for me. It's just run the football weather. Game script, sure. Success rate, sure. If it's cold, windy, and gross, they're going to run more than if it's, 70 degrees Fahrenheit and blue skies. Like, that's just football. He's cleared it in 4 straight. I love going over 17.5 for Najee, and I might even be convinced to go over on Warren too, because if you heard they ran the ball 30 times tonight, you'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. AFC North, bad weather.
Yep, exactly my point. And I mean, Cleveland only allows 19 rushing attempts per game, which I thought was kind of confusing because of how bad their record is. But I guess they haven't faced the Steelers yet. Steelers run the ball a lot, so it's what I'm expecting tonight, at least.
Let's go to the Cleveland side of the football, and this is a surprising one. You're honing in on the quarterback.
Yeah, this kind of contradicts everything that we kind of talked about with the weather and all that, but I'm on Jameis Winston over pass attempts 34
and a half sounds like a lot, but context is important.
Yeah. So if you just look at how he's done since he's taken over under center, he has hammered this line. Hasn't even been close. He had 41, 46, and 46. Like, he's destroying, just obliterating this line. Yeah. And like, sure, it is scary because, you know, it is a bad weather. He might not be throwing a lot, but like I said, Nick Chubb hasn't really been used in this offense like we thought. So an ascension of the run game could just be a few dump offs here and there.
Yeah.
You know, to running back short, and that's a pass attempt.
Sure. So tight end. Yeah.
Yeah. And while we think as 3-point favorites, Steelers should probably be leading in this game, Browns are going to have to be throwing to come back. So it's risky due to the weather and everything, but have a little faith.
Yeah, I don't care how windy and gross it is. If it's 3rd and long and the Steelers defense put you in a tough spot, like I think they will a lot of the night, you're going to heave some passes. It's just the only way you're going to be able to move chains, or even try to move chains. So Jameis Winston over 34.5 pass attempts. And again, his last 3 weeks, 41, 46, 46. He's cleared it with ease. We'll see. I mean, I only think of one thing that would make this go sour, and that's Cleveland getting way up early, and they just haven't done that all year. And this Pittsburgh D has been so good. I
can't imagine they can do this to the Steelers defense.
Third bet of the week. It's a point spread bet. And this is one that when we looked a week out, I was like, that line is wrong. That is not the correct number. How in the world could you see a 2-8 club against an 8-2 club? But then again, we did this a few weeks ago with, what was it, Houston and the Jets. And it was like, oh, okay. Something about that matchup. The books know more than we do, which they tend to do. This weather makes this line make more sense to me. But the Steelers are absolutely the better team. What do you like about the Steelers minus 3.5?
Well, I just think they're by far the better team. And when I first saw that line, I was like, okay, like that's kind of crazy. You know, like it should be more, especially like an emotional high coming off a Ravens win, you know.
Playing good football.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I just really like this line. Like, I'm not too worried about the weather. Like, I could see it, as we said, like before it, like that Texans and Jets game where it's like, it just makes sense. You know, like, what are they telling you? You know, like, I don't know. I don't have a great description on this one, but I mean, the last 4 times these two teams have met, whoever was favored had covered the spread. So
let's go to an unbiased source. Jack, who's wearing a Steelers jersey today. It must have just been lights were out and you grabbed something out of the closet. Do you like the Steelers minus 3.5?
I'm torn. I've seen this story so many times where they're favorites. They go in after a big win and they shit the bed under Tomlin. And what we were looking at earlier this week, the Thursdays. God,
really, Tomlin struggled mightily on Thursdays, just like last week against Baltimore. How he had John Harbaugh's number. The opposite is true on Thursdays. Thursdays have Tomlin's number. It's a smaller sample, but it's still like very one-sided.
Yeah, very one-sided. So I'm completely torn. Like that 3.5. If it was 2.5, I'd be all over it. Like I wouldn't be shocked if it's like, hey, go kick a field goal for the win, Boswell, and they win by 3.
Yeah.
So I'm there, but I'm not there. Like, pardon?
You want to buy it down? We could buy it down.
No. Look, I mean,
I've just seen this story so many times as a Steelers fan. Off a big win, go on the road, and it's just a letdown. But maybe this team's different. I really don't know.
They're a much better team than the Cleveland Browns. But if you put the crazier I turn up the weather, like bigger wind, now snowflakes, slippery, mud. Like if this turns into a turnover fest, I could see the Cleveland D winning this game. I don't think Jameis can beat the Pittsburgh defense to win this game, but I could see turnovers and Russell Wilson, slipped out of his hand. And, this guy fell here. The ball pops out. Najee had some fumble issues early in his career. They haven't really been a thing anymore, but this is gross weather. I think the turnover ratio wins this game tonight.
100%. You're going to see something stupid for sure. Whether it's some turnover or like block field goal that goes the other way, like this is the type of game where that will happen.
Okay, so our 3 bets: Najee Harris over 17.5 rushing attempts, Jameis Winston over 34.5 pass attempts, and the Pittsburgh Steelers minus 3.5 the point spread for the game tonight. Tyson,
they're scary, man. They're scary.
They are scary. It's fun though.
Sweaty. Sit back.
We'll wrap quickly here for Bet Victor, but before we do, this is Saving Thursday. What's saving your Sunday as you look ahead to Week 12? Tyson, is it a bet? Is it a game? Is it just 6 teams on bye? What's got you excited?
Monday Night Football, the Har Bowl.
The Har Bowl.
Har Bowl. The Ravens against your Chargers. I feel like, it's a good bounce back spot for the Ravens, but what is this the first time these two brothers are going to coach against each other since the Super Bowl? Like, how's this game going to go? Right?
I've been a Chargers skeptic as a fan, and Jim Harbaugh has been sensational. Like, I think there's so many wins that are losses under the Anthony Lynn, Brandon Staley. The last week they found a way to lose that game. Last year, the game that they just eked out over Cincinnati. Like, he's brought so much stability and confidence. You look at a guy like Quentin Johnson just thriving under him. Herbert looks as good as he's ever looked. I'm in on the coach. I don't know that they're good yet, but the coach has manufactured some wins for them.
Yeah, and that's been impressive. Another thing that I'm really excited to watch is, this Chargers offensive coordinator came from the Ravens, and J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. There's so many other ties that the Chargers have to the Ravens, and how do those guys get utilized? Now the Ravens have the best, or one of the best, them and the Chiefs run defense in the entire league. So maybe I'm not targeting Dobbins, but maybe he punches it in if they get close.
Here's the thing. The Ravens have been so bad against the pass. We've talked about it all year. Justin Herbert, in the last 4 or 5 games, they've really let him throw, and you've seen the emergence of Ladd and of Huge. Like, it's all of a sudden, I really like that matchup for the Chargers, and they're going to run the ball for balance, not for efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just so nice that Herbert's finally being able to use his arm in the offense.
No question. The first 4 weeks, he was averaging 160 yards, and now it's like 300 every week. It seems like he's back, which is great to see. Jack, what's saving your weekend? We both love that Monday nighter between the Harbaughs.
For me, it's going to be the Niners and Packers. The Niners have kind of had the Packers number over the past couple of years, playoffs last year, and then going back to the Rodgers years. The Niners are an interesting team. They lose last week to Seattle. Yeah. What's going on there?
They've lost like 3 or 4 games that they had leads in the fourth quarter on the last possession. Like, last week was another where they let Geno run in. They did it to Arizona was another. And then I think there's even another divisional one where the Rams beat them in the last. Like, the Niners have been a team that in crunch time, they've kind of waffled a bit. I don't know.
Yeah. In our spread picks, I've been all over them for the last couple of weeks, just waiting for them to get right and just dominate some team. And it hasn't happened. I think we lost Tyson, by the way, as Peter said. So yeah, I'm excited for that game this Sunday. And the Packers, they barely get by the Bears.
Yeah,
ugly win there. So that's what's saving my Sunday.
I love it. There's some good ones in there. Enjoy it. Again, our picks of the week: Najee Harris over 17.5 rush attempts, Jameis Winston over 34.5 pass attempts, and Pittsburgh -3.5. You can find all those at Bet Victor. This has been Saving Thursday. Chat with you next week.